Hello and welcome to Course Like Your Car Brochure channel, and in today's episode we're going to continue our 1980s Vauxhall range brochure. Today, Carlton. Hello and welcome back. Now if you're new to Course Like, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars, car brochures, looking back at cars gone by, memories is really what this channel's all about, then please consider subscribing. It is all completely free. Anyway, like I say, back to today's episode, the Vauxhall Carlton. We've been looking at this 1980s full range brochure for Vauxhall at a time when Opel was also being sold with their range of cars in the UK, so we've kind of been contrasting the two models and thinking which one would have we chosen at this time before Vauxhall and Opel sorted themselves out and had a proper range where, you know, you went in the showroom to the Vauxhall Opel showroom, chose your car in the UK rather than them kind of like competing against each other in the UK, which was always a little bit weird. Anyway, let's throw the brochure on the board and have a little look at this Vauxhall Carlton. So here we are with today's brochure, the Vauxhall all-model catalogue for summer 1980. An interesting range of vehicles from the Droop Snoots to the incoming what Vauxhalls are going to look like in the future, I guess. Some, of course, outgoing models, some about to be updated, like the Cavalier, of course. But like I say, we're looking at the Calton today. So we've looked at 4 episodes already in this series, and if you missed any, don't worry. I'll put a bit of a link at the end of this particular episode. It really doesn't matter which order we look at them. Anyway, when we turn to the first page, there's always a little bit of a tiny little line telling us about each model, so let's turn to that now. So in this little bit of a tiny segment, in fact they're describing every single car in the range here. So for the Calton, it tells us, Calton confirms Vauxhall's technical superiority with its distinctive style, luxury, refinement and crisp handling. So let's turn to Calton. And here is the Calton running along a beach by the looks of it. I always wonder who's the unfortunate person who ends up of these cars in a brochure. You know, before you even get the keys for your car, it's already been covered in salt. Not the best start to its life for sure. At the top it tells us Calton Saloon and Calton Estate, 2 luxury models of striking design that personify the new wave of Vauxhall cars with beautifully proportioned lines that are also highly functional. Okay, so the images that we have on here, again this Calton running along in the sand. We get a little image of an estate version and the rear of a yellow one, but they're not the biggest or clearest images, so let's turn to the main page and look at the first model. And here we go, the Calton. We'll come back to these lovely images, but we'll start up here and learn about the main image of these early Caltons. So straight away it shows the problem really. It says Calton, 4-door, 5-seat saloon, 2000 engine, 1 full specification. Yes, only 1 spec level of Calton. I remember this is the time when Opel and Vauxhall were kind of like competing directly with each other. So the Calton was competing directly with the Rekord in the UK, and as we'll find out later on, the Rekord has got a very nice range of different spec leveled vehicles. The Calton does 1 level, and of course if you compete against things like the Granada, you really need more than 1 specification. But it's sad really, because I think the Calton is actually a far better looking car than the Rekord in my opinion. Anyway, we'll continue reading. It tells us we've got a magnificent blend of space, luxury, quality and refinement all through makes the Calton one of the most impressive saloons available in its class. It goes on to tell us through extensive wind tunnel tests, Refinements were incorporated into the wind cheating, noise reducing shape. The air flows over and around the car with the minimum of turbulence. Result: good fuel consumption, high top speed, impressive driving characteristics all round, plus superb road holding. Inside, the Calton is unusually spacious and lavishly luxurious. The upholstery is in rich velour cloth. Front seats have adjustable head restraints and the driver's seat is also adjustable for height as well as rake. A push-button radio and fully retractable aerial are also standard. Driver and passenger comfort is complemented by the sophisticated heating and ventilation system with its ability to flow warm air into the lower half of the interior and cold air into the upper half. Warm air can also be flowed to the rear compartment and the end fascia vents also demist the side windows. The booster fan has 4 speeds and operation via rheostat gives almost stepless control through a sliding lever. On the road, the computer-tuned suspension system quickly shows its road-hugging capability, and it incorporates many technical advances to ensure total ride comfort. Our main image from the rear, badge simply Calton 2000 and the Vauxhall between the lights and this black area, which I always preferred that sort of look, which was slightly different to the Rekord. Front end was the main thing that was different to the Rekord, this droop stoop type idea that Vauxhall was still running with. Sort of like no front grille and the bonnet curving down. I always preferred that look, and one of the reasons I probably would have gone for the Calton even though the range wasn't that good at the time. And it's showing such things as a sunroof and these alloy wheels, which would have been an optional extra. And then a look from the side. Overall, like I say, I think it was a good looking car actually. Now, because there's just this model in the range, obviously if we're not going to move on, which was the problem, but we'll turn the page and see what else is shown. A look on the interior. I do like what GM used to do at this time with these colour sort of matching interiors. It does look nice, all this blue. Seats do look very nice in that velour as well. Nice headrests, nice rear armrest. So even though it was only one spec, it was a nice spec. They tried to kind of like pitch it somewhere in the middle. You know, you can get more luxurious Rekords. You get less luxurious Rekords, and this was somewhere in the middle somewhere. So more image, so it's showing the rear seat now in a different colour. The ventilation, the automatic transmission that it could be had with. The inside, they went for a little bit of wood in there, but no rev counter, which was a little bit odd. And then things like these nice door cards with this sort of like ashtray type design in the back, and it even gives us this sort of nice X-ray style view of the car, which actually gives us a better look at that dash and how far it went along to the passenger side, which was a little bit weird, and lots of wood on the Calton that the Rekord didn't have. It continues by telling us the well-proven 2000 power unit places the Calton firmly in the 100 miles per hour plus class with punchy acceleration when needed. Look into the Calton saloon. There's more space, comfort and luxury to set new standards for medium-sized saloons, and it starts listing some of the specifications. So the specifications, I'm not going to read them all out, but I'll pick a few key points. But of course you can pause the screen at any time if you wanted to look at them all yourself. But the nice thing at the top now, velour cloth seat trim, which was my favourite seat trim at the time. I always liked that. Reclining front seats, carpeted rear parcel shelf, boot mat, rear centre armrest, side window demist, various instrumentation. Although, like I say, no rev counter, which was a little bit weird. So other things are things like push button radio that came as standard, vanity mirror, dipping rear view mirror, nothing outstanding by today's standard, but Nicely spec'd overall for one spec level. We get halogen headlamps, we get a heated rear window, reversing lights, bright wheel trims, underbody light, which is nice. And then it tells you the options, which we kind of like saw in some of the earlier images. So the sunroof was an option, automatic transmission was an option, power steering an option, alloy road wheels an option, and metallic paint an option, which was quite normal to have with a car. So even though it's one spec level, if you added all the options, you did get quite a high spec model actually. And then we turn the page and we note there's another model, the Estate, a very practical Estate, but only in one spec level. I don't know what I would guess this is, like a GL I guess. So not badly equipped, but nothing out of the ordinary, and I think the problem was the limited spec levels for the Vauxhalls at this time. We'll move to the text first, then we'll come back to these lovely images. So it's a 5-door Estate, of course, 2,000 power and comprehensive luxury, being a sleekly styled, luxuriously appointed car with the versatility of full passenger comfort, enormous load carrying ability. The Calton is the ideal family estate. For business users, the Calton is a thoroughly practical load carrier, sturdy, economical, with large load area, and capacity plus easy loading. Every aspect of the Calton estate shows practicality because it was designed as an estate. Note the square-shaped rear for maximum utilisation of load space, vital to many business users. A flat floor, extra wide tailgate opening and low loading height further emphasise its virtues as a genuine workhorse. The big, high-lifting wraparound tailgate, carried by hidden hinges, opening at the touch of a button, and is assisted and supported by long, gas-filled struts. There's virtually no wasted space inside. The fuel tank and spare wheel are underneath the low carpeted deck, and there's very little intrusion of the wheel arches. Specification for the Calton estate is identical to that of the saloon, except for cargo area rear end bodywork. So get the usual estate stroke wagon images, seats up and down in the back showing extra space being utilised in strange ways. A look at it with the tailgate open, and then that really practical long space when them seats are down. You've got a little bit of intrusion with the wheel arches, but not bad for its time actually. It was a pretty good load lugger, wasn't it? And there it is. So that same sort of droop snoot front end, distinguishing it again from the Rekord. Overall, a pretty good looking estate. Now, someone did mention colours a couple of weeks ago, and I keep forgetting to add them. Really, there isn't a nice colour chart, which is really why I've not been talking too much about colours for this 1980 range. But there is a list here, and this is for the Calton. So you can get polar white, pastel blue, Jamaica yellow, which has been quite a striking one, ember red, bright green, orange tan, regatta blue, royal red, pine green, and then the metallics, which were bright copper, hazel brown and sapphire blue. Of course, metallics are an extra cost item, but a really great colour range actually. Some nice sort of like bright colours in there, which I certainly approve of. So the real question at this time, because you could buy the Opel at the same time as the Vauxhall at this time in the UK, is which would you go for? The Calton, which we've just looked at, or the Rekord? I'm sure it all comes down to personal preference, but let's have a look at the Rekord range. So even though in this particular 1980 Opel brochure, the full range brochure, it lumps all the specifications into one, the main difference is we have got a range of Rekords now. There isn't just that one specification, which is the main reason you might be more tempted by these. Although personally I didn't think the front end was quite as interesting as the Vauxhall. We'll read the text up here because it talks about the range, and then we'll come back to the images and maybe have a little bit of a talk about it. So it starts by selling it in a very similar way actually. The Opel Rekord brings you the space and comfort of a big car with the economy and agility of a good 2 litre. Combining both style and sense, the distinctive shape is a result of extensive wind tunnel testing. Interesting, that's exactly what they said with the Calton as well. I wonder which one was more aerodynamic, because obviously that Vauxhall certainly had a different, what looks like a more aerodynamic shape at least. It goes on to tell us, designed to minimise fuel wasting drag and raise all-round performance. And despite the compact external dimensions, there's ample room inside for 5 full-size people and a boot big enough for all their luggage. Then it starts talking about the range, so there are 3 2-litre S Rekord saloons. The Rekord L, with a big value specification that includes reclining front seats with adjustable head restraints, a clock, cigar lighter and halogen headlights. So I'm thinking that was one model lower than the Calton, so maybe that if you was on a budget you might have gone for that one. Then it takes us up to the Rekord Berliner, which gives you even more luxury inside and out, and the top of line Rekord Berliner HL with its electric windows, bronze tinted glass, alloy wheels and much more. So that was certainly a higher spec model than we got in the UK for our Calton. There's also the capacious Rekord GL Estate, which I'm thinking was probably similar, which offers you space with style. And completing the range, the rugged yet refined 2.3 litre diesel saloon. So we've got a diesel here, and diesel estate, which, like all Rekords, are available with optional power steering and automatic transmission. I'm sure the diesel would have been very heavy without that power steering. Anyway, it ends by saying, Opel Rekord, the sensible approach to a larger car. But image wise it shows the interior there. It doesn't tell us which model's which, but shows the interior, but it does tell us the auto is certainly an option. The inside, no wood, as you can see. They've gone for an all black look with the Opel, but you will notice we do get a rev counter on this one. The estate, which does look surprisingly similar to the estate version of the Calton. Also got this tiny image of a model in green, possibly the base model, it's hard to tell. And then this model, which would have been the top of the range model, certainly higher spec than what Vauxhall had. We've got the alloy wheels as standard, and we've got such niceties as we do get standard things like this headlamp wash wipe system. We've got these front fog lamps, like I saw, say, those nice alloy wheels as well on this top model, and also standard we get this manual sunroof as well. So certainly a higher spec model than what we got in the Vauxhall. So the question really here is, what model would you actually get? Now personally I think the Vauxhall looks a more interesting car with that droop snoot, but certainly if you wanted sort of like a top model with all the bits, you would have had to go for the Opel, and of course you could have got that bargain basement L version as well. So a more comprehensive list of cars with Opel for sure. I don't have a price list for the Vauxhalls unfortunately, but this is the price list for the Rekords, and you know, it's going from £5,698 for that base model L, all the way to £7,198 for that very high spec Berliner HL, which was certainly a nice one. Interesting with the Rekord, you also got something called the van, so you could get a van version there for a bargain price of £4,918. I don't know about you, but I've never seen the van version before, so that's certainly an interesting one. Overall, I do think I would have been happiest with the Calton just because I prefer the looks of it, but that's, like I said, that's purely a whatever you prefer the looks of. That top of the range Rekord is certainly a nice one. But certainly in the comments let me know what you think and what you preferred. Always interesting to see your comments, and certainly if you owned either one of these early Carltons or the Rekord, let me know how you got on with them. They're certainly an interesting range of cars. We'll continue our story next week and the 1980 Vauxhalls and 1980s Opels, but we'll end, as we always do, by saying please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free, and of course helps you find the episodes you want to see, as well as help us give you better content. We'll end with this lovely Calton from 1980. Add a couple of boxes on there. One will be for this full range brochure, so all the episodes we've done so far, so if you miss one you can certainly click on that. And also we'll throw another video up there as well for those who are up to date. But thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.